Welcome back to the Sober Sofa. My name is Shanti Patty Owen. I am your host for this channel where we discuss all topics related to addiction and sobriety. I was a former model back in the 80s, and since 2016 I have worked as a sober companion and a sober coach. Yes, painful, absolutely, to go back in there. But once I excavated, I started feeling lighter. I started feeling more joy, which is why I can smile now. I am a sex addict, love addict, an alcoholic, a compulsive gambler, and a debtor. The topic of this particular video is Grateful Addict Part 2. The reason it's a Part 2 is because one of you wonderful followers sent me an email to sobersofa@gmail.com. I'm going to refer to him as Jim, but that's not his name. And he wanted me to elaborate more because a few weeks back I posted a video called Grateful Addict. And I focused mostly on my gratitude, more or less regarding my job as a sober coach and sober companion, because I'm so grateful because I went down the rabbit hole so deep and came out of it. I have been able to support other addicts in getting sober and staying sober. But there are so many other elements to being an addict, why I'm grateful and why Jim is also grateful. So this is what he wrote regarding that other video. I wished you'd made the point about character and that addiction strips you down, and in recovery you have to rebuild yourself as a person, and invariably you become a better person. Absolutely. And that is probably the most important element of why I am grateful to be an addict. In my experience, discovering I had several addiction issues was not the happiest experience of my life at the beginning. But what's happened is now that I can identify these addiction issues and working through them, I'm a much better person. So it's commonly understood now is that addiction is actually a symptom of trauma, that it is not the cause of trauma, it is a way of coping with trauma. So once I took those addictive substances and behaviors off the table, I had to deal with this milieu of painful feelings from the past that I never wanted to deal with. And yes, painful, absolutely, to go back in there. But once I excavated all of these experiences, I started feeling lighter. I started feeling more joy, which is why I can smile now. And in my other video, I talked about when I was a fashion model that I rarely ever smiled. I never felt that pure essence of joy. Mostly it was a lot of angst. But, I was in the early stages of my addiction issues, and I was medicating myself with alcohol and sexual behaviors and crazy gambling pyramid schemes. Oh my God, when I think about what I used to do. So anyway, that was the first part that Jim talked about. He also said, suffering gives one more empathy and resilience. That can be true, that suffering can give us more, what did he say, empathy and resilience, if you're sober and you've done a lot of work on yourself, because sometimes a lot of suffering creates a lot of animosity. And if the person who's suffering doesn't do some deep work on themselves, it can have an opposite effect, a lot of blame and a lot of resentment towards the world. I wanted to bring up the topic of physical illness, because there are people who have pretty complicated and intense chronic physical ailments, and some of them are ongoing, some of them are more short term. But what's happened is it's the same paradigm, actually. When somebody has a pretty intense physical illness, they really need to do a lot of inner work and outer research to find out the core and the source of the illness. And those people can either become very bitter and resentful for the illness they have, or that suffering can soften them and they have more gratitude for the little things in life, that the sun is shining like it is today, that people in their life love them. Because when we experience pain, whether it's physical or emotional, like I said, it can go either way. It can go towards bitterness and resentment, or it can go towards empathy and softness and vulnerability. Jim also asked, or he said, I wanted to know what you've observed in others over the years working in the field. Great question. Similar to what I said earlier about people can go one way or the other. Either they can grow hard and be resentful, or they can soften and be more empathetic. It's the same experience. I observe the exact same dynamic. And I've noticed that the clients that have stayed in touch with me all these years are the ones who have softened, and they are the ones who are more grateful and empathetic. And usually the ones that, and not all, but sometimes the ones that are more resentful of becoming sober, I usually don't hear from them. So for instance, I've had several clients whose parents have hired me to help their child get sober. And when I say child, it doesn't necessarily mean, because I don't work with people under 18, but they could be 25 or they could be 45. Perhaps there is a trust fund at stake, and they will not allow them to have access to their trust fund if they're not sober. So they're definitely not happy. They're definitely not happy that I'm there. So they're usually the clients that don't keep in touch with me. But I hope that answers your question, Jim. And I would like to encourage everybody to send me questions and statements, or if there's a video you've not seen yet that you would like to see regarding addiction and sobriety, please send that also to me. You can either leave it in the comment section or send me an email at sobersofa@gmail.com. I love that the community is growing. You have no idea how much I love this. And hang tight, in a few weeks, we are also going to have some interviews. I can't wait for them. So thank you very much. Welcome back to the Sober Sofa, and I will see you next week. Oh, thank you for subscribing. Thank you so much. Subscribership is growing, and thank you for hitting the bell notification and the thumbs up to my videos. I so appreciate it. I so appreciate you. Welcome back, and I will see you next week.